All right, House of the Dragon, here we go. House of the Dragon, I haven't made any videos about it this season so far, but I think it's a huge step up from season 2, and I think tonight's episode might just make it better than season 1. I mean, it's very different than season 1. This season was quite different than either of the other. Each season has been very different from the other 2 seasons. Season 1 was a lot of sort of like build up, like we had generations age and die. We had Rhaenyra and Alicent start as like teenage girls, and then by halfway through the season they were recast and they were women with children of their own, and then those children were recast as older children, and older children recast as young adults. So then this whole time, of course, Sir Criston Cole never aged at all. So would that we were all so lucky. But season 2 then was just a lot of setup. Like it was weird because it felt like season 1 did most of that setup. Like by the end of the season, it's like these 2 sides have clearly formed and war is on the horizon. But then season 2 kind of just like dawdled and spent the whole season like building it up further. Just it was like table setting for 8 episodes. A part of this I know was HBO cutting 2 episodes from that season, and from all the seasons subsequent to season 1. And so what I think was supposed to be the finale of season 2, the Battle of the Gullet, ended up being the opener of season 3. And frankly, the Battle of the Gullet really didn't work for me. A lot of the reason for that is it felt like they made this pirate chick Lohar very central to the whole story, and it felt like she was very much like this cartoon villain, just like so girl bossy and like just capable of like killing all these armored knights with her daggers and fighting off multiple assailants at a time. And it was just it felt very silly and cartoonish for Game of Thrones, and the battle itself felt very hard to get the sense of scale and scope from the Battle of the Gullet, so I wasn't super pleased with that episode. But the rest of the season kept getting better, and I sort of found myself liking Aegon more, and Aegon and Larys' story, even though it's a little different from in the books, I thought was really quite excellent, actually, and his character arc was quite good. I think we got a little bit more time spent in, other than Aemon's story. I think the time spent on all the characters was time better spent than in season 2, because you just have a little bit more going on with all the different characters, and you have the dragon riders, and we have some really great moments, like in the 7th episode when all the 4 dragons face off, Sheepstealer versus the other 3. I thought it was just a really cool moment, even though it's not at all what happens in the books. It was a cool moment on screen to see these dragons fighting one another. So I won't go into too much detail on season 3, but overall, as we get into this episode, I will say that I liked it significantly more than season 2. And season 1 was great, mostly because I thought they did such a good job with Viserys and his ailing and his failing. But we'll get to some of both the things that I really liked about this episode and the one thing in particular that I didn't like, and that I think has been a ball and chain around the feet of this otherwise pretty decent show at this point, which is, I'm surprised to say, because after season 2, I was really not looking forward to House of the Dragon all that much anymore. I thought, it had really kind of fallen apart, but I've actually come to really enjoy this season. All right, so what worked? All right, first of all, okay, I've made some notes so that I don't just ramble completely crazily. I think the battle was awesome. That was a really good battle. Like, it's not what happened in the books, and we'll get to that in a little bit, but as just a standalone cinematic achievement, that was really cool. You have the Riverlanders and the Northmen with Roddy the Ruin, and you have Daemon and Caraxes, and you have this huge army arrayed, and then they attack the city, right? Because Ormond isn't going to give up. He's put little boys up on the ramparts so that they can't burn them. He's very canny. He's very cunning, this Lord Ormond, played by James Norton, who is the bad guy in the show Happy Valley, which I really love that show. You should watch it if you get a chance. He plays one of the scariest guys I've ever seen, so I was not at all surprised when he played a villain in this show. Although, villain, can you really say he's a villain necessarily? I mean, he uses pretty wicked tactics, I guess, putting children out in front of the gates and stuff. That's pretty awful. So I'd say it's fairly villainous. But so is Rhaenyra. So is Daemon. They're really all kind of villains, aren't they? I do like a few characters. I think Gwaine is a pretty decent guy overall. King Darren the Daring, sort of silly. I think he's a much less diabolical person than his ward, or than his Ormond's not his uncle. He's like his cousin or second cousin or something. But anyways, it's confusing. They're related somehow. They're just some of the only related people in the show who aren't having sex with each other, as far as we know. But Darren seems like a good guy. I would rather have Darren be king than Rhaenyra be queen, because she's kind of awful. But the battle was really great. I thought Roddy the Ruin getting up and hacking his way all the way to Ormond and killing Ormond, while Ormond also killed him. They each kill each other, and then Ulf the White, who Ormond has been looking for this whole time, who has drunk himself silly, finally gets on his dragon and he starts burning his own troops, right? Daemon's troops, his army. Then he turns around and he says, fuck you too. And he goes over and burns Ormond and just burns the city, just burns everything. The whole battle was awesome. I really, really liked it. One thing that I thought it did really well is that this is a show that's very zoomed in. You're always in like bedchambers and corridors and, these tight spaces and even in bigger battles, even in the Battle of the Gullet, you always felt like you're kind of zoomed in on a couple ships. This battle kind of zoomed way out and gave us this big epic battle, on the field, in the city itself, some urban warfare, which is kind of unique for Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon. So yeah, I think that some other stuff that worked really well, Ulf's betrayal. It's in the book. It's just kind of like Ulf and Hugh. They're just like kind of like, I feel like George R.R. Martin or the characters, the historians, the people telling the story. There's multiple accounts, of course. Ulf and Hugh are kind of portrayed as just these low-born, like ignorant assholes. They don't know how to read. They don't have any manners. They're just terrible people, and of course they betray Rhaenyra. In the show, one thing I like about the show is that they show how they're not such bad guys, but they are kind of treated like shit. Like Ulf, he's not just this like loathsome guy. He's just a guy that likes to go to the bar and drink with his friends. And all he asks Rhaenyra for is like a few favors for his buddies. Now, granted, that's kind of stupid, and he's not the smartest guy, but like he's a dragon rider, and she needs him, and she just is scornful and dismissive. She won't even let him go out to the bar anymore. This is a guy who all he really wants is to have friends and a good time and, a beautiful woman on his lap and all that. He's a simple man. And she just denies him anything. And Daemon is even worse in a way. He beats him and he disparages him. And Hugh is not treated quite as badly, but they set this up in a way in the show, I think, that makes it very obvious why Ulf would turn to Ormond, who lures him with, promises of Driftmark and grand things. And, but then when he finds him asleep in a latrine, like with his pants down, and first of all, the smell offends Lord Ormond because he has a thing, an olfactory thing. But this really pisses him off because they're losing the battle because he isn't on his dragon. So he drags him out and he beats him and he berates him. And then Ulf, of course, now he's pissed at both sides. So I don't know where this is going to go because he's now like gone rogue and just killed everybody. And I don't know where it's going to go because Hugh has not been part of this betrayal. We'll get to that in a minute. What else worked? I liked the Aegon and Aemond scene where Aegon shows up and Aemond is sort of, is he remorseful? He seems very circumspect. He seems very like he realizes how badly he screwed up and he begs forgiveness. And Aegon is like, you asshole, why don't you fight me? Like, come on, like, let's get this over with. Like, you tried to kill me and now you're just going to sit here? Like, who are you? And this is a great scene because the brother dynamic has changed so much. And I love the way that this show has, in this season, finally given us some really dynamic character arcs for Aegon, for Aemond, for a lot of these characters. I mean, some of them, like Daemon, really, really haven't changed at all, which is fine. You don't need a lot of change for every character. But these brothers in particular, well, I think the scene was kind of superfluous in a way to the episode because they don't really get to the battle or do anything. it is kind of fun that they've kind of reunited. I don't know how Aegon figured out that Aemond was in Harrenhal, but he seems to know a lot more than Aemond does at this point. Aemond was kind of a waste of time this season, but you'll get to that in a second. I'm still going through what worked in the season finale. Let's see. Rhaenyra, I like that they're making her more ruthless because she's very ruthless in the books. Like when she gets to King's Landing and takes over King's Landing, she immediately has like the Grand Maester Orwyle put in a dungeon. Some of the stuff that happens in the show, like Otto being beheaded, that happens. But she's quite a lot more ruthless than she is, and she's less weepy. She's always like in this episode. It was weird because she comes in like crying when she finds out that Aegon's alive still, and I just feel like what? Why are they making her cry here? At this point, she's supposed to be like pretty ruthless, and I like that the show is making her more ruthless and more kind of awful and unsympathetic, and at the same time, kind of making Aegon more sympathetic. I think that's working really well. But there are a few things still that I think they could have maybe done better. The stuff with Helena, Helena was pretty damn like awful and great in a way. Like it was great TV, but it was awful to watch. Her having her force fed because she won't eat. But there are some other things with Helena that I'm going to discuss that I think didn't work as well. I love her. I think her character is really interesting, and the changes to her character, making her a dreamer and stuff, was pretty interesting. I think it's weird that they kind of took her dragon away from her because that was a pretty defining feature of her in the books. So they kind of really inverted that in a way that I don't really think makes sense. But her tapestry is really interesting. That shows like her jumping from the building. It shows Rhaenyra on the Iron Throne with what looks like blood and fire. I could be wrong. The scene where Rhaenyra goes down to the Sept to order the High Septon to anoint her as queen, when she has Alan go and kill everyone in there, like. That's a great scene, even though I think it was probably a terrible decision on Rhaenyra's part. And I'd say like we have a few moments like that, like Rhaenyra dismissing Mysaria, the white snake or whatever the fuck she is. I think that like it was weird because last episode she's all distrustful of her, and then they have sex, and now she's dismissing her. It's very sort of whiplashy. But what's even weirder is that she dismisses her and then just kind of lets her go free on her own recognizance. And this is like her master of spies, her master of whisperers. You would think that you would either imprint, like put her in the dungeon, lop her head off, or like take her in with the guards all the way down to the ship. And then once she's on the ship, pay someone to like slit her throat or toss her overboard or something. Like there's no way you let somebody out of your service with so much information and knowledge and ways to fuck you over. It's crazy. And I just find like little things like that really annoying. So I guess we'll move into what didn't work. That didn't work. But a bigger thing that I really don't like, that's been bogging down this show from the beginning, although I didn't hate it at first. It's not until I saw the repercussions of it that I started to dislike it so much. But I would say the prophecy, the stupid prophecy of ice and fire, the prophecy of the prince who was promised, the prophecy of the evil force beyond the wall, and how the Targaryens are destined to like save the day and the dragons need to stop. I hate this shit. Why did they put this in there? The only real like mechanical narrative purpose it served is the misunderstanding between Alicent and Viserys when he's dying, and he says Aegon, and she thinks he's talking about their son, but he's not. He's talking about the prophecy, but she doesn't know that because he hasn't told her about the prophecy. But you could easily just have cut all of that, cut the prophecy, and had none of that, and had Alicent just be a more ambitious and ruthless character herself, because that's how she is in the story. You did this season really underscored how badly they've kind of misused Alicent as a character, I think, and the prophecy is part of that. When Rhaenyra goes out and makes this speech about like how she basically tells everyone the prophecy, the secret prophecy, and everyone's just like looking at her like she's crazy. Like, what is this bitch talking about? Even her supporters are like, oh, geez, are we back in the wrong horse here? Crap. And then she says in Old Valyrian, High Valyrian or whatever they call it, she says that she's the prince who's promised. I am the prince who's promised. Why? Why does she say that? Why? Like, what is that? I don't understand. First of all, prince and princess are two different words. And this whole like retconning bullshit where they're saying that prince and princess are like the same word and whatever in Old Valyrian that they started in the Game of Thrones so that like Daenerys could be also the prince that was promised is really dumb. It's really, really, really dumb. It's silly. It's like in the Wheel of Time show where they had all the characters, both the male and female characters from the Two Rivers, all of them be Taverin, or however you say that, Taverin. I don't remember. Anyways, it's like, no, you don't know. It's the prince that was promised. And why Rhaenyra thinks it's her, that's not really explained. I don't really understand. I don't understand why she suddenly thinks she is this like there's no indication that there's some like force currently active in the north coming down to destroy everything. So it's just a weird moment in the show. Like, I think they could have written a different speech. And like, I loved her costume, like all decked out like a warrior queen. Like, there could have been so much that happened in this moment with her killing the High Septon and all his lackeys, and the crowd could have started to riot. Like, there's so many things that could have happened here, and they just didn't. And I don't know. It felt like a missed opportunity. Her coldness to her son Joffrey is really interesting, and I kind of think that like she's like sealed herself off from him, and I think like stuff like that is really well done. But overall, this scene was strange. Yeah. So Helaena, she's force-fed, and then Mysaria tells her that Aegon's alive and they're going to use her baby as a hostage. And these are horrible things, but then she throws herself from the window and dies and commits suicide. And I don't really think it works. Like, I know in the book that yes, Helaena kills herself, and there are multiple different reports on why. Some say that it's because she just has fallen so deep into despair. Others say it's because Mysaria tells her that very day that Maelor, her son, has been killed. In the book, Maelor is alive, has been born, and has escaped the castle, the Red Keep, with Sir Rickard Thorne. And they are betrayed, not really betrayed, but they go to an inn and are discovered to be like Targaryens. And so they're pursued to a bridge where Sir Rickard is shot with crossbow bolts and killed. And the mob that has formed on the bridge argues over what to do with Maelor, turn him into Ormond, turn him into Rhaenyra. And in that tussle, somehow Maelor is killed. And then there's different reports on what happens when his head is sent to Rhaenyra. And so much other stuff that goes on that's just not in the show. But it makes sense, I guess, that one of these reasons, like especially Maelor, I would say, losing another child might cause you to commit suicide. But I guess there's no real way. We shouldn't judge. I'm judging the story more than the character. I think it feels a little bit forced that she would do that, especially with her daughter Jaehaera still in the castle, still under Rhaenyra's thumb. So, and I guess I already mentioned Mysaria, the idiot plotting for Mysaria, letting her go free. Some of the stuff with Hugh, like they added the wife and they changed the storyline around, and I can't really make up my mind about whether I like that or not. And I guess I won't be able to until next season where we see where it goes. I don't really know where a lot of stuff's going because like Ulf hasn't like joined the Greens at this point. He's destroyed them just as much as he's destroyed the blacks. And so we don't really know, like, Hugh, like, is he going to blame Rhaenyra for his wife dying? I mean, she died in a town occupied by Ormond and burned by Ulf. So where all that goes, I don't know. It's really big departures from the book. So I guess on the one hand, that's kind of fun because we don't know where it's going, and maybe it'll make for some cool, exciting like switcheroos or changes in the fourth season. I don't know how they're going to fit everything into the fourth season since it's the final season, and there's just so much more that happens. Now, finally, we'll just go through a few different changes from the book. It looks to me as though probably they've compressed both battles of Tumbleton into one. In the book, the first battle, Rhaenyra's forces hold the town, and Ulf and Hugh turn on them and burn the town and destroy Rhaenyra's forces there. And that gives Ormond this huge boost, right? And gives, well, the Greens in general a victory. Two of the dragons move over to their side, but of course, in the book, also Sheepstealer is still on Rhaenyra's side and working with Daemon. Daemon is not at the Battle of Tumbleton, the first Battle of Tumbleton, and Ulf does not fall asleep in the first Battle of Tumbleton, but he does in the second Battle of Tumbleton. So I'm pretty sure they've just condensed all this, and they're going to do something very different in the show. Yeah, the betrayals are more fleshed out in the show than in the book, and I think that's good. That's a good change. I like to see Ulf with really like a solid motivation for switching over and a solid motivation for wanting to burn Ormond. And I thought it was actually kind of a funny moment with Roddy like watching the dragon come down, and he's got his arm chopped off, and he's like, "Yeah, bring it," and Ormond is like, "Oh no, the smell." Book Rhaenyra, I already mentioned this. She's harder. She's more ruthless. She's less weepy. Depends on the the different versions of like Mailer's head being sent to her. Like Mushroom says she cried. Septon Eustace says she sent the head in a chamber pot to Alicent or to Helena. Speaking of Alicent, she's still like off on her little like foiled quest to kill her own son, which is maybe the stupidest plotline of the season. But she sees like butterflies rising up from the ground, and I think this is like symbolizing Helena's death. That's my guess. It makes sense for Helena. Yeah. So so I don't know. It'll be like, there's just so much in the book that happens that I don't know how it's going to happen in one season, and with all the changes, it's kind of hard to say. But overall, I think this was a pretty good episode. Even with all the changes, even though some of them leave me feeling very uncertain about the future of this show and how they're going to resolve it all and where all these plots go, I do think that this was a fantastic battle. I mean, it's one of the better battles in the whole franchise, like including Game of Thrones. It's up there with some of the best. And I would say, I guess probably the Battle of Blackwater is probably still the best battle in my opinion, but this one was really good, and it was very exciting, and there was just a lot of great fights. Daemon fighting Sir Joxton or Sir Roxton, I don't know, the guy from Andor, big old guy and big old burly guy with a two-handed sword, and he almost kills Daemon, but he's saved by the dragon fire, like crumbling the building between them. We don't know if Darren's dead or not. He's probably alive because they didn't show a body. Gwaine lived, which was surprising to me. I thought he was a goner for sure. But he's off looking for Darren. And now we have, Aegon and Aemond off together, I guess. I don't know if Alice is with them or if she's still just chilling. I think she has to stay at Harrenhal. She kind of reveals a big backstory of how she's like hundreds of years old, or at least 100 years old, cursed by dark magic that she used to try to save her son decades ago. Now, I don't think any of that's in the book. It has been a while since I've read the book, but I think they made that up. But it's fine. It's kind of a cool invention, if so. Some backstory for this strange witchy woman who claims Harrenhal is hers. I mean, and if that's the case, that really is hers. So, by ancestral right. I'm probably missing stuff, but there's probably going to be other videos we can make out of this, and pretty soon we have the even more amazing, probably the most amazing fantasy show ever made, Rings of Power, the third season of that. So I'm super excited for that. I'm really hoping to get some kind of podcast going for that. Maybe some live reaction videos, watching that could be fun. Something. I want to do something special. We used to have the Woke Beards, with me and a couple buddies were doing a podcast for season 1. Most of my friends gave up on the show after season 1 or didn't finish season 1. I think I only have like maybe one friend who I know in my whole social circle who's watched season 2 the whole way through. And I have some very, very big Tolkien nerd friends who make my knowledge of Tolkien seem paltry by comparison. So anyways, that's the next big like fantasy show on the horizon. I need to do some videos about like Night of the Seven Kingdoms, Stranger Things, some of these things that I didn't do videos about when they came out. Better late than never, I suppose. So once again, as always, let me know what you'd like to talk about on this, or like have me talk about on this channel. I'm going to also just say that it would be super cool to do a podcast with Sean had, that would be super, super cool. So that's, life goals, right? That's just one of them. One of many. So many life goals. So let me know what you think of this finale of this season. If you watched it, if you've given up on the show, whatever. I thought overall pretty damn good. Not as good as like early seasons of Game of Thrones. Not as good as Knight of Seven Kingdoms. Much better than season 2 and better than season 7 or 8 of Game of Thrones. So, boy, we're getting a lot of comparisons there. But let's just rank all the seasons of every different spinoff and everything else, right? Anyways, like, comment, subscribe, and thank you for watching. Peace.